go ahead and get started. Hi, all. I'm Lisa Gilbert, co-president of Public Citizen. In case you don't know us, Public Citizen is a national nonprofit with 500,000 plus members and supporters nationwide. Our mission is to take on corporate power. I want to thank you so much for attending this event today to preview Good Trouble Lives On, the John Lewis National Day of Action happening this Thursday, July 17th. On the 17th, we'll be honoring the memory of one of our nation's most important civil rights leaders, someone who impacted and inspired millions, former U.S. Congressman John Lewis. I'd like to recognize the dedicated organizers and partners who are making this upcoming historic day of action possible. Groups like the Leadership Conference for Civil and Human Rights, Black Voters Matter, Transformative Justice Coalition, the League of Women Voters, and many, many more. Because of their incredible work, we will be holding over 1,640 events nationwide on Thursday. The flagship Good Trouble event will be in Chicago. We'll have others in Atlanta, St. Louis, Annapolis, and Oakland, California, along with many, many others around the country. I want to give a shout out to our wonderful Public Citizen team who've been working on the Day of Action, including our communications team, Katie Garcia, Claire Simon for organizing today's presser. And finally, just a big thank you to all of the speakers joining us today. They have been guiding lights as we are navigating what is one of the most terrifying moments in our nation's history. We are all grappling with a rise of authoritarianism and lawlessness within our administration. And as the rights, freedoms, and expectations of our very democracy are being challenged. So today you'll hear from our speakers more about John Lewis's legacy and how Americans will march in peace and act in power this Thursday. The attacks on our communities, the assault on the rule of law and democracy, and the greedy acts of corporations and billionaires have led us to a crossroads. And as a result, we are asking people around the country this Thursday to make good trouble. So with that, let's get started. You're going to hear first from our fantastic speakers, and then following their remarks, we hope to have a few minutes for questions. You can ask a question at any point. To do so, just add it to the Q&A box. We'll answer some of them as we go along, but again, hope to ask a few out loud at the end as well. So with that, hand it over to our very first speakers, Barbara Arnwine, Daryl Jones, co-leaders of the Transformative Justice Coalition.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. It is our pleasure. I'm sorry. Can everybody hear me well? Okay. It is our pleasure to be able to talk to everyone today about the upcoming Thursday, John Lewis National Day of Action. Good Trouble Lives On is the theme, and we are so excited. For those of you who don't know the Transformative Justice Coalition, we are a 10-year-old voting rights, racial justice national organization. Our particular focus is on youth leadership. We spend a lot of our energy and time on Gen Z and young millennial leaders. And now, of course, Gen Alpha is saying, what about us? So we spend a lot of time in that space, and we go around the country involving communities, especially the communities that people say won't vote, in voting rights. And so we do a heavy voter education, heavy voter activation. We are in 29 states throughout the country. We are blessed. They have 280 partners around the nation that we work with. And we are so happy to be here with our major partners today. For this press conference. We want everyone to know that this is the 5th anniversary of the passing of John Lewis. And what we want the nation to know is that his legacy lives on, that the good trouble that he got into and that he fought for is not over, that we are in this moment as we see all of this authoritarianism and other problems, that we are absolutely focused on making sure that our voices throughout the country are raised. We also, however, want to really focus July 17th on racial justice. We want to really focus on what John Lewis fought for 50 years of his life. He fought for voting rights. We would not know his name but for his presence on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and how he was brutally beaten that day back on March 7th of 1965. Without his courage and his sacrifice and that of 600 others, there would not be a Voting Rights Act. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been seminal in transforming the politics of this nation. But at the same time, all of that's under threat now because we have an administration that is determined to act in an unconstitutional way that lives on racial division, which we find really offensive. We think racial unity is the basis for a real America. So we are happy that people throughout the nation are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for this opportunity to come out in a multiracial way, to come out together to celebrate John Lewis. People said this couldn't be done. They said that you're wasting your time. Nobody's going to come on out on a Thursday. Are you kidding me? Are you guys somehow organizationally dysfunctional and don't understand the criticality of this moment and that people won't come out? Honey, we are so happy that we're talking to you this day, and all of that has been laid to rest because people are coming out in droves, and they're coming out by the hundreds of thousands, and they're coming out all over the country and worldwide. So with that said, just thank you so much. We want to get the word out to everyone to become part of this movement. This is not a one-off. We will be doing more in the future, but we are so grateful to stand up in John Lewis's legacy on Thursday throughout the nation, throughout the world.
Thank you for that, Barbara. I'm Daryl Jones. I'm the co-leader of the Transformative Justice Coalition. And I think that Barbara really underscored a lot of what the National Day of Action in honor of John Lewis is all about. One of the things that we also wanted to be certain that people were aware of is that, the July 17th date when John Lewis transitioned from this earth, we had the opportunity to go to Capitol Hill when his casket came to the Capitol, and we took a knee at the casket, and we had vowed and promised that we would carry on with his legacy of fighting for democracy. And that's what this is all about. We don't just take John Lewis's name and put it up there and say, let's run with it. We went to the family of Congressman Lewis and we asked their permission to do this. And they are on board. Their condition was they did not want it to be a somber remembrance of his life, but rather picking up the baton of what he stood for and running forward with it, building and moving toward the beloved community. That's what this is about. So whenever there are challenges that are being presented across our country to democracy and to other areas that challenge our individual freedoms, that's where we stand up. That's where we stand in the shoes of John Lewis and carry forward with that baton. One of the things that John Lewis would always say is that if you see something that's wrong, you have an obligation to speak up, to say something, to do something. That's what July 17th is about. Seeing things across this nation, seeing things that are being impacted that are just not right. So we have to have that, we've got to stand up and say something. That's what July 17th is all about. I'll close with this. In 100 of the locations, 100 of the 1,600 plus activations across the country, you're going to have an opportunity to see the banner that carries the image of John Lewis on the front of it. And if you look closely at these banners, there's a large banner. If you look closely in the banner, in the background, in the shadows, you'll see the image of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. That is symbolic. That is symbolic because everywhere that there is an activation across this country, each community is crossing its own Edmund Pettus Bridge. That's what that's symbolic of. We encourage everyone, and this is all about everyone being bridge walkers, to cross those bridges that are in your communities to bring people together. That's what this is all about. And that's why we're so excited to be here, encouraging everyone to be a part of it. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks, Daryl, and thanks, Barbara. So appreciate those inspiring words. I want to hand it now to my friend Selena Stewart, CEO of the League of Women Voters.
Hello, thank you, Lisa, and the entire Public Citizen team for convening this briefing, and also to Barbara and Daryl on the I cannot speak today. Transformative Justice Coalition for hosting the 5th annual John Lewis Day of Action. Thank you so much to both of you for doing this. I'm Selena Stewart, CEO of the League of Women Voters. This Thursday, July 17th, is all about getting into good trouble, as has already been mentioned. On the surface, I suppose it may seem kind of like an oxymoron, but civil rights leader and Congressman John Lewis knew that it was anything but. It means that to do good, sometimes you have to take risks and you have to rock the boat, be a little unruly, put politeness aside, and fight for what you believe in, even when it means you get into trouble. And John Lewis was the consummate good troublemaker in my eyes. Throughout his long career, John Lewis remained a champion of civil rights, urging Americans to make good trouble in the pursuit of justice and equality, which brings us to this current moment. Today, we're called on to get into good trouble and respond to the attacks that we see happening in our streets, but also in civil and human rights, which are occurring right before our eyes. Our voting rights are under attack. Big, bad, ugly bills are making its way through the process of making voting harder for women, Black and Brown Americans through policies and changes like discriminatory voter ID laws, attacks on voter registration, last-minute election day barriers, and limiting poll access to underserved community. To paint a picture of where we are now in comparison to where we stood when Congressman John Lewis rose as a leader, and that was 65 years ago, President Johnson deployed the National Guard to protect peaceful protesters during the civil rights marches in Selma. And now we are seeing President Trump calling on the Guard to harm and stop protesters from using their First Amendment right. We have come to a different place. The Trump administration wants to rule by fear. It wants to silence opposition and dissent. The League of Women Voters has called what is happening in our nation a constitutional crisis, and I believe that. We realize that this was a big statement for the organization because we've never said that before. We've never had to. But the foundational principles that have sustained our democracy, checks and balances, the rule of law, free and fair elections are under direct and sustained attack right now. So what else could this possibly be but a constitutional crisis? In this extraordinary moment, we cannot proceed with business as usual, not as leaders and not as part of our organizations. We have launched a new initiative. We've called it Unite and Rise, which aims to mobilize 8.5 million voters between now and November 2026 to protect and preserve our democratic institutions. This is the legacy of Congressman John Lewis. But it's going to take more than just me. It's going to take more than just the League of Women Voters or even the organizers on this call. It will take all of us together, arm in arm, alongside, putting people at the center of this in order to empower what's happening in the United States. The power lies in the hands of people like it always has. We know that. We have seen that throughout our history. So let's demand three things today. First, we have to demand an end to the Trump administration's extreme crackdown on our civil rights, from our right to vote to our right to protest and even to speak freely. Second, let's demand an end to politicians and lawmakers who are targeting Black and Brown communities, whether that's immigrants, trans people, and others with hateful and very dangerous policies. And third, let's demand an end to the wealthy and well-connected slashing of programs that working people rely on every day. Things like Medicaid, SNAP, Social Security. We have to draw a line in the sand to not line people's pockets and agree not to line wealthy people's pockets. In this moment, I think we need to channel the passion and the commitment of John Lewis. If he were here with us, and I think about this often, what would he encourage us to do in this moment? That is going to look different for all of us, but I know that all of us can do something and many of us can do many things. And so I just want to take this moment to encourage us as we head into this really historic moment this week to lean into that. Those in power are counting on us to be discouraged. They're counting on us to be silent, and they're counting on us to give up. So let's show them that the lessons and examples of John Lewis are still very much alive and well today. Let's show them that when people fight, we will always win. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Selena. And I love that message that all of us can do something. So now I want to hand it over to Leslie Prohl, Senior Director of the Voting Rights Program at the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and Public Citizen, and all these amazing groups today who've made the John Lewis Day of Action possible this year. So the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights is the nation's oldest and largest civil rights coalition, comprised of 240 organizations who work every day to make America live up to its ideals. As we mark the 5th anniversary of John Lewis's passing, we are calling on everyday people everywhere to engage in the good trouble that our hero so often encouraged us to do, as has been said today. More than ever, we must use the power of people to come together for peaceful collective action to move our country forward. The challenges before us are tremendous. On August 6th, I hope everybody knows this, we will be celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, for which John Lewis almost gave his life. But we just marked the 12th anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision in Shelby County versus Holder, which gutted the heart of the Voting Rights Act, as Representative Lewis said on the day of the ruling, and which unleashed a tsunami of voter suppression, the impact we still feel today in its ferocity and pervasiveness to deny communities of color a voice in the critical decisions about their everyday lives. We have a Congress trying to pass the SAVE Act, which would require documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote. This would disenfranchise tens of millions of Americans, from the 69 million married women who've changed their name to the 2/3 of Black Americans who don't have a passport. It would end voter registration as we know it and accelerate voter purges around the country. Adding insult to injury, the Trump administration executive order mirrors the SAVE Act by attempting to require proof of citizenship to vote and share out inaccurate voter roll information to fuel voter purges around the country. And we know the administration is also taking numerous other steps to convert our democracy into an authoritarian state. We have a Justice Department in name only that is perverting the founding mission of the Civil Rights Division to protect voting rights, to instead prosecute voters, the people who assist voters, and election officials for voter fraud, and is even weaponizing civil rights laws to target the very communities they are supposed to be protecting and to accomplish their personal and political agenda. In this moment, more than ever, we need to lift up our affirmative vision for a multiracial democracy in which everyone can participate and have their voices heard. We need a Congress that will pass what we call the Freedom Package, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, the Native American Voting Rights Act, and the DC Statehood Bill. This week, we will be shouting from the rooftops for everyone to make John Lewis's mission their mission, a democracy where every voice counts. In his own words on his last visit to the Edmund Pettus Bridge in March of 2000, which I was incredibly fortunate enough to witness, he said, "Never give up, never give in, keep the faith, and keep your eyes on the prize." Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Inspiring as he was. Thank you for that. I now want to hand it to Allison Pulliam, co-director of the Declaration for American Democracy.
Thank you, Lisa. As Lisa said, I'm Allison Pulliam, the co-director for Declaration for American Democracy, a coalition of over 270 organizations focused on passing comprehensive federal democracy reform in the way of the Freedom to Vote Act, and then also working hand in hand with the Leadership Conference to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act as well. And so we're just so excited to be helping partner and work on this wonderful day of action, our Good Trouble Lives On Day, coming up this July 17th. And just a reminder of what we're really fighting for here. We know that the Trump administration is attacking all of our freedom to vote. They're trying to pass legislation like the SAVE Act, as has been mentioned, that would prevent millions of Americans from voting. We are fighting against their extreme agenda that he knows is unpopular. So again, he's attempting to silence our voices by making it harder for people to vote. That's one of the ways that we're able to express how we feel about what the government is doing. So they know by clamping down on that they can push through what is a very unpopular agenda. And then also we're fighting to make sure powerful politicians and extremist judges don't strip away our civil rights, which is, again, something that we're seeing. And 65 years ago, you would know, President Johnson deployed National Guards to protect peaceful protesters. Now we have a president that is deploying National Guard to actually stop peaceful protests, and it's making things more dangerous for people and making things harder for people who just want to stand up, protect their neighbors, and speak out, which is something that we're allowed to do. So with our Good Trouble Lives On, what you're going to see, what does making good trouble look like? Well, what you're going to see is rallies and marches all across the country, but you're also going to see moral assemblies at state houses and federal buildings. You're going to see service work being done, such as food drives and community events and direct action trainings. People are going to do teach-ins and movement building events. There'll be mass mobilizations, such as voter registration happening. As was said, we have over 1,600 events happening throughout the country in all 50 states. And people are showing up in their communities in the ways that they feel led to show up. And that's just exactly what Congressman Lewis meant when he talked about good trouble, finding ways to be of service to your community. We know different communities have different needs, but everybody is on the same page about wanting to make sure that we are as one as a nation. So thank you all again, and excited for July 17th.
Thanks, Allison. Okay, we're going to hand it over to April Albright, Legal Director and Chief of Staff at Black Voters Matter.
Hello, everyone, and I am so glad to be on this call with some good troublemakers. My name is April Albright. I am the Legal Director and Chief of Staff of Black Voters Matter. We have worked alongside over 600 grassroots organizations in 27 states, making good trouble 365 days a year, as we call it. And so this day is so special to us. John Lewis is so very special to us. As a young woman, I am so very thankful that I was able to, when I was becoming an attorney, to work and hear and learn from Brother John Lewis as I became an attorney, a more seasoned attorney and a more seasoned activist. And so I'm so grateful to be under the leadership of Barbara and Daryl in continuing his very, very mighty legacy. One thing that John Lewis understood is that America is still becoming, that it's still becoming, that there is no final version of itself, that America will become exactly what we all desire for it to be through our participation, through our work, through our actions, and more importantly, through our heart and our vision. And so this Thursday, we come together in the legacy that's been present for so many years, and where people, goodwill of different races, of different genders, of different ages, who've come together throughout the years in order to make America become something it was never, quite frankly, intended to be. And so in that legacy, in that spirit, we just need to be reminded of that it is time, it is a clairvoyant call that we must assemble this mighty justice team again. It doesn't matter what your profession is. It doesn't matter what your status is in terms of economics. It makes no difference what your age is. It makes no difference what your race is. It makes no difference what your faith is. We need to follow the legacy of the change makers like John Lewis in this country. And now it is our turn to make America become something greater, something better, and something we've never seen before. And so when we look at our Constitution and we're approaching the 250th year of its inception, there are things that we need to add. There are things that we need more of. So when we advocate for the John Lewis Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, the Native American Rights Act, the DC Statehood Act, that is in the legacy of making America become more. And so we need your voices. But we just don't want to stop with Thursday, right? We want Thursday to activate us, to continue to go forward. We need to march, yes. We should protest, yes. We should do our local elections because power is birthed from the ground up. But we need every single facet of our communities actively engaging in making sure America continues to become. So if you're a librarian, it doesn't matter that the Department of Education is imploding beyond our reach, it seems. Right now, you can hold Sunday sessions where you talk about American government, where you talk about the historical things that are happening that are being taken away from our classrooms. If you're a church or a faith group, you can be a part of making sure our community has the mutual aid and the food and the relief it needs when things like, Meals on Wheels and after school care and school lunches are jeopardized. These are the kind of things that are going to be just as revolutionary acts as we are marching in the streets on Thursday. And so let Thursday be a reminder that we still have to make America become that multicultural democracy where we all share in power and resources. But it's going to take our change of our heart, and it starts this Thursday. Thank you.
Thanks, April. I love the description of the different types of courage that people will show Thursday and beyond. Okay, we're going to hand it now to Betty Magnus, Executive Vice President of the League of Women Voters in Chicago and host of the Big Chicago flagship event.
And we are so excited. This is the 5th year Chicago has done a candlelight vigil in memory of the late Congressman John Lewis. And we're excited even more so to be a flagship city. Among our local participants, in addition to national, we have Indivisible Chicago, Rainbow Push, Chicago Women Take Action, Common Cause, League of Women Voters Chicago, Citizen Action Illinois, and our participants include our own Mayor Brandon Johnson, the President of Chicago League of Women Voters, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates, and we have a DJ that's going to rock us with boots on the ground while we're waiting to get started with our national broadcast, which starts at 7 p.m. and runs until 8. We have young people, 3 students who are going to be reading the last letter from Congressman Lewis that was an op-ed in the New York Times. We have a young woman singing the National Black Anthem. And we are super excited about our candlelight vigil, which in the past we did on Chicago's beautiful lakefront. But this year, our crowd has grown so much we had to move it to Daily Plaza. So we will be closing out. We also have attorney Dr. Armwine. We have attorney Daryl Jones coming in. And we're just excited to be a flagship city. And we welcome anyone in Chicago to come. We're getting registrations, about 2 registrations a minute. Signing up. I almost can't look at my phone because every time I try to do something, I've got another Mobilize sign up. So we're just very, very excited. And anyone that's in the Chicago area, we ask you to come along and join us 5:30 to 8:30 at Daily Plaza, 50 West Washington in Chicago. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks, Betty. 2 a minute. That is quite the clip. That's fantastic and exciting to hear. Okay, now we're going to head over to Helen Butler, Executive Director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda and Atlanta event host. Helen, to you.
Thank you, Lisa, Barbara, and Daryl. It's always good to be with all of these good troublemakers. Here in Atlanta, I'm the executive director of an organization that was founded by one of the greatest civil rights leaders, the dean of the civil rights movement, Dr. Joseph Eccles Lowry. And all of the civil rights leaders that you've ever heard of, they worked here and they lived here in Atlanta. So we're going to have a good trouble get down. It's going to be awesome. I want to say that we're going to start out with, and I'm sorry, I think I did my background. Something happened to my background here. Let me try it again. It's not working. But we're going to have in Atlanta, we're going to start out with a march that we do in honor of John Lewis. That march will culminate right at historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King served so long. And of course, our U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock, serves as the historic pastor. We're going to really be engaged in making sure that we educate our community. So the idea is that our community is not only going to be celebrating, but we're going to learn about all of these issues that you've heard about, how it's impacting us. Right here in Georgia, we have an election study committee going on today that is trying to change the way voting rights are done. Then we also have over 400,000 people that are scheduled to be removed from the voter rolls. So the idea is to have these activities to really inform people, make sure they know what's happening, and get them engaged in this process. As we march from the mural of John Lewis, we're going to come to historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where we will then do a panel discussion talking about where do we go from here in the future. And we have, of course, intergenerational young people that will be performing, but performing with a message and with a purpose. So we want you to be with us. I wanted to show you this, not to burn my background, but this Good Trouble Get Down is what we're doing. John loved dancing to Happy, and that was his favorite song. So we're going to be doing Happy, Boots on the Ground. But more importantly, we're going to be getting people activated. Our theme for this year is Mobilizing Block by Block. We've been doing this for 2 decades, over 2 decades, almost 3. So we're going to continue to work on a daily basis to get people registered, educated, mobilized, and to hold our elected officials accountable. So join us with the John Lewis Get in Good Trouble, Still Lives On, Get Down. So join us.
Thanks, Helen. Such a great event. Great to hear all the details. And even more important, we've been doing it for a long time, but the context we're in is scary and it's more needed than ever. So thank you. Okay, we're going to hand it to our last speaker, Linda Davis, organizer with Showing Up for Racial Justice Annapolis, to talk about her event in Annapolis. Take it away.
Great. Thank you all so much. I'm also, Carl Snowden is on, and he's the co-organizer for the Annapolis Good Trouble Lives On event. And we're so excited, and these are hard acts to follow. I'm honored to be on the call with all of you. I'm a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice, Annapolis, Anne Arundel County. I'm also a member of Caucus of African American Leaders, convened by Carl Snowden. And his saying is that we're making America better. We're not making America bitter. And we're doing that with a multiracial group that is marching over 2 bridges in Annapolis. And the multiracial group includes Showing Up for Racial Justice, Annapolis, Anne Arundel Indivisible, Chesapeake Indivisible, the Caucus of African American Leaders, Free State Coalition, the Coalition for LGBTQ plus students, as well as the Transformative Justice Coalition. We are excited to be an anchor site. We're excited. We have people speaking, including Congresswoman Sarah Elfreth, Honorable Carl Snowden, who's on the call, Elizabeth De Jesus from the American Federation of Teachers. We have an older person, Dewan Gay, Renee Clark, founder of the Good Trouble think tank. We have Joe Tulin, chair of Annapolis Pride, and we have Elizabeth Ruddy, who is on the board of directors for the local teachers union. So we have a great group of people marching, and we are marching over the bridges to symbolize John Lewis's march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We're still marching for civil and human rights like he did, and we will continue to march until we get civil and human rights. So thank you all. We look forward to the day and to continuing to get into Good Trouble 365, 24/7. Thank you all.
Thanks so much, Linda. Just want to appreciate everyone for being with us today, all our great speakers and everyone who joined, all the reporters who are with us as we raise the curtain for the over 1,640 events coming at us this Thursday. Well, we will remind this administration that in America, the power is with the people. So we've been answering questions in the chat, but for anyone who didn't quite get theirs answered, we will send out after the call to make sure you get your question answered. We'll also send out a recording of this event. I want to thank you all so much, and we look forward to seeing you on Thursday to make good trouble. Thanks.